What's going on, everybody? We're back with another edition of the Crazy Face Uno podcast. I'm your host, Shane McNeely, reminding you as well, Crazy Face Uno is here to inspire others to do good, make a difference in our local and global communities. And I have maybe my favorite guest so far because my best friend, he is one of the best, Samuel Palombo.
Hello.
Sammy P. Sam Palombo. Sambo. There's so many names for good old Sam.
Yeah.
Welcome, dude.
Hey. Yes, nice to be here.
He's a little radio shy.
Oh, that microphone gives me the...
So this is not our last hurrah, but it's getting closer to.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm moving to Florida.
See? Florida is tough.
And so I have this bottle of wine. It's a bottle of champagne that's been sitting in my fridge for a good while. So if you're tuning in, we're going to toast a little champagne to life and our friendship. And Sam, will you do the honors, man? So this is also an addition to, or part of the Bethel Boys Series. This will be number 4. And so we'll be talking similarly, if you've listened to the podcasts with the other Bethel Boys, Calvin, Tyler, and Tony, you'll know kind of what we're going for, or kind of how this conversation will go. But I just wanted to remind everyone that that is part of the series. So if you're just tuning in now, go back, listen to some of the other ones. You can hear a little bit more about some of the best dudes I know, the guys that kind of have inspired me throughout my college days to be better, to do good, to make a difference. So you can laugh it up,
yeah.
Sam. Pop that puppy. Let's go.
Right then.
Let's hear it. I hope you guys can hear it here. Oh, here it goes. Boo! There it is.
Oh, not a
Cheers.
single drop.
Like a pro. All right.
Can you hear that, everybody?
Oh, it's nice.
It's very
sound.
loud in my ears right now.
So,
That'll do.
cheers.
Cheers.
To good friends.
We'll miss you around these parts.
Thanks, dude. I'm gonna miss you guys too. I've talked about it. I may have talked about it on the podcast with Dana, but I've lived in Minnesota. I've lived in this house actually as long as I've lived anywhere. I think growing up it was about 6 years before, and it was about the longest I had lived anywhere. So, living here, it's like I have this family. I have this, my relationship with Dana was formed when I lived here, in this house. She moved in, and we've kind of created and started our family and our life here, and so it's kind of weird to leave. You don't like the microphone still?
I can't even see your face,
I'm right here. You gotta peek through the little gap.
Window here.
That's why I lean like this, so I can see your face.
It's pretty impressive that you've only lived in a place, 5? Did you say 5?
Well,
6?
it's been so I moved to the Twin Cities February 2013. So it was February 9th. For whatever reason, that date has really stuck with me throughout the years. And so it's ingrained in my head. February 9th, 2013, 2019 now. So we're 6 1/4, 6 1/3, or whatever. Do the math. Years. Here. And it would have been around this time that I moved in of the year. August, September-ish. That I moved in here, so almost 6 years in this house, and 6 1/2 or so.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
I've been in Minneapolis since July of 2012.
Okay.
Yeah, that's when I first moved here.
Right. Yep. And part of, so this kind of ties in with what you're saying there. Part of the Bethel Boys kind of getting back together, and that group of the Calvert guys was the passing of Matt and kind of bringing us all back together and kind of appreciating our friendships and reuniting some of just that we hadn't been in touch in a while and we let things go and but that brought us back together and that was the first time in a week and a half ago. It was like the first time in almost 10 years that we had all been back together.
Yeah, that was so fun. So good to see
everyone. Yeah. Do you want to tell us, so obviously we all went to Bethel. What was your main reason for going to Bethel, or when did you decide to go to Bethel? What was that decision like for you?
Sure.
Do you want to start with that and maybe we can see where that takes us?
Sure. Yeah. I think the main reason I went to Bethel was they did offer me a soccer scholarship. It was quite small, but it was what it was. And as well as the nursing program there at Bethel. My sister also went to a similar type of school. She went to Spring Arbor University.
Up in Michigan.
Yeah, Jackson, Michigan. And I went up there, visited her a bunch, and spent time on campus and met her friends, and saw how kind of fun it was to be in that kind of lifestyle. So that's why I joined, or that's why I applied to Bethel and went there. But yeah, I didn't know anyone else going there. I didn't know.
Did you ever consider going to Ann Arbor?
Spring Arbor? No.
Spring Arbor?
No, I never really did, just because I wanted to do my own thing, I guess,
Yeah.
Be at my college and be away from my sister. But
Sure. Was the fact that it was a Christian college, was that a draw to you at the time?
I guess it kind of felt comfortable at the time. It was part of my life already, so with the family and I grew up with. Yeah.
Yeah, which is interesting. And then the nursing program, like you mentioned, because Bethel's nursing program is like one of the best in the country. It's made several lists, I know, even since we've left, of nursing programs. And that was actually my major when we went as well.
Right.
And I believe our first time meeting was at the freshman registration. And I just remember, because we both had that small little bit of scholarship that we got, we were on that page, and I remember looking through and reading the bios of everybody on that page. And I remember seeing yours was the nursing and soccer and blah blah blah. And so when I saw you at registration, that was when we first met or whatever. I believe I asked you if you wanted to be my roommate.
Yes.
And you felt the pressure and said yes.
Well, my mom was like, why don't you go talk to him? And come on, he'd be a perfect roommate. Part of me was like,
Your mom said that before?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know that. That's funny.
And I thought about it too. Of course, I was like, well, it does make sense. But
yeah.
I was like, that mystery of finding or not knowing who you're going to live with when you move in. I think that kind of was the only hesitation. But no, fuck yeah.
Yeah, it was. And I mean, the rest is history, which is great.
I think you'll have to put an M on this podcast.
Oh, mature? For the mature audiences.
Well, actually, it might be allowed one F-bomb.
Well, whatever. Enough. You do you, man.
Okay.
Cheers.
Yeah?
I don't know. Sure.
Hey!
Hey, yo! But yeah, so that's how I first met. That's funny that your mom had said that, because I was the one that was like, should I go? I should go. I didn't want, it felt weird about it too, because it's you just don't know each other,
Yeah.
But it felt like it made sense in my brain, was we get up at the same time, we're not going to be bothering each other either way, that way.
True. It's true.
And it's funny, because over the years we've realized that I was always the one that was, I think I was looking for the best friend, right?
Right.
And you were the one that was like, man, tear it down.
Yeah.
And I like the idea of we're all we're going to class. Let's go to class, Sam.
Right.
Let's hang out all the time.
Yeah.
And you were like, no.
Well, my only excuse. No, it's when I got there, I was looking for my in at the college. You didn't know anyone either.
Nope.
Just like me.
Right.
We
and
could
I
be
wasn't
friends.
gonna help you get in. This is true.
Dude, yeah, so I think that's why.
Mhm.
I went to the ones at the end of the hall.
Right.
Derek and Tony, who knew everyone.
Right.
Remember those?
And then, like, I mean, it was just, it makes sense because, like, the crowd, or, like, the guys you kind of,
Yeah.
I mean, we did all hang out together. But,
Yeah. I know.
But yeah, so Derek and Tony, which Derek will be on the next episode.
Nice.
So he'll be bringing in the rear there with the Bethel Boys.
Mm-hmm.
And so Tony we already heard, and like those guys were in the same hallway.
Mm-hmm.
We always joked about it was like 3 doors down, like the band.
Inside joke.
Yeah, inside joke right here. But no, it was good because that was like how our friendships, I feel like, kind of took off, and then
Yeah,
you
for
guys
sure.
lived your sophomore year together, right?
Yeah, in those little houses.
Yeah.
So.
Who all was in there? Was it you, Matt, Tony, Derek?
Well, it was the year Tony went to Dominican.
Mm.
So him and Matt Crouch moved in second semester.
Mm.
Because they were away first semester. Jesse Brenneman?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Jesse. Yeah, because we played
Derek,
FIFA.
me. Yeah.
What was it?
Derek, me, Jesse, Reed. Reed was there.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. It was fun.
Yeah, sophomore year I was in the dorms.
Mm-hmm.
Man. With Patty. That was my roommate. Yeah.
Fun times, though. Shit.
Yeah.
I like
so
going
fun.
over there, hanging out with you guys.
Yeah.
Coming over, checking it out.
Yeah, we'd like go back and forth.
Yeah.
Good times. When do you remember when you guys first started the conversation of starting, like, moving or doing stuff with the Calvert House? It would have been that year. It would have been sophomore year.
Sophomore year would have been?
Yeah, because it was junior
Yeah.
year when you guys moved in.
Let's see.
I just don't know because I wasn't technically in the house.
Yeah.
It was like you guys' kind of
Sure, for sure.
thing.
No.
But
Mm-hmm.
like that, I know that conversations began at some point in time, and like
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know the timeline or whatever.
Mhm.
I would be
Oh, it started with Moljan. He arrived our sophomore year, and
he was a freshman then, right?
Yeah.
Played the soccer
and
team.
when we first met him, he was just being introduced to everybody, but he had this just push in this time of his life where he needed to act out what he believed, I guess.
Yeah.
And his focus was taking care of the poor, and his kind of passion and just like his drive to do that pulled me into it. And anyways, it started kind of there, but that was just the beginning of sophomore year.
Mm-hmm.
And then it moved into the Catholic worker stuff.
Yeah, which we
where
all kind of got involved with.
Yeah. So we met
to the
Rick
Catholic
Becker,
worker.
and
Mhm.
then he told us where the house was, and we went there for dinner one night. And that's where we first saw like how you live in a community and
Mm-hmm.
and be a light or be someone
Yeah, I
that
remember going to
is
that
a
house.
resource.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was because they had their own. It was like what kind of house would you call it? It was a
It was a
Catholic worker house
Catholic
that
worker.
helped, like, it was like a transition home kind of for
Yeah.
people coming off the streets to
Mhm.
be able to get back
Yeah.
into.
Very select few. There's only 3 beds for
Yeah.
people that weren't a part of the Catholic worker
Mm-hmm.
like ministry. Mhm.
So yeah, that's right. I totally forgot about
Yeah.
that. So I think we all went to that. Like,
Yeah.
that's
we
all our
went
group.
multiple times for sure.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and we'd hang out and you like help chop the carrots, make the
Right.
salad,
A
and
weird kitchen.
yeah, it was like a really disjointed kitchen. It was. And then there was just that big long table in the
Mhm.
middle. Oh man, it's so crazy. I remember that now.
Yeah.
Like how you sparked those memories. Yeah, I remember doing that for sure. We went there, and then we were doing a lot. I mean, we continued to at the Catholic worker, like the drop-in center.
Yeah, exactly. And then they pointed us to their
Yeah.
drop-in center. Saturday, Sundays.
Mm-hmm. And I think that may have been the time that we kind of learned of it,
Mhm.
really.
Mm-hmm.
When we started going on Saturdays specifically.
Yep.
And kind of the same mindset. You'd go in and sometimes it was just doing dishes, or sometimes it was just hanging out and talking to people, or
Having a cup
help
of
chop
coffee.
up whatever, help make the stock for soups and coffee, all sorts of things. And then that grew, the Catholic Worker, like that specific place, and it sounds like it's really grown from Tyler, Tyler talking.
Cool.
But yeah, I mean, even when we were there, things had grown into like getting the showers, getting the washer and dryers,
clothes.
Weather
amnesty.
Yep, weather amnesty stuff. And I think that's like, it just sounds like they've all, like, the groups have been working together in South Bend, which is really cool to see, like, those programs.
For sure.
Yeah, man, cool. So that makes sense. Now it's all kind of coming together. That's like how I couldn't remember how that all kind of transpired.
We had a weird meeting at that coffee shop on campus.
Yeah.
It was in one of those conference rooms.
Yeah.
Meet here at the conference room, and we're going to talk about it. But we did something about it, which was the cool part. We weren't just the people that sat there and talked about it for 3 weeks. But we went and figured it out, so it was cool.
And then however that went, we didn't really talk about this with Tyler or Calvin or Tony, but I believe wasn't some of this is maybe, I don't really know, so correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't some of the reason that Bethel kind of got involved because of athletics for you? One of the reasons? Because we weren't allowed to live off campus with the scholarship, I believe.
Right.
And
maybe.
I feel like that was one of the things. And then I think maybe even Calvin and Tyler had something similar with their Tony, like with their like scholarships. So I feel like it was a scholarship thing. And then that's kind of how, so to frame this, Bethel ended up getting involved. And I know Tyler kind of touched on it, and so did Calvin in the podcast. Calvin was more like, felt like they got meddled in it and kind of messed it up and like ruined the naturalness of the organic like nature. Maybe you can speak to that too.
Well, we kind of met and then approached the college with this idea of like, oh, would you let us live off campus, be a part of this community, and help out in the college's name, you know, allowing us just to keep everything, just how our college worked with the meals and like just with the way you lived at college. If we lived off campus, we could still take part in everything or whatever. So that's kind of how Bethel got involved. We kind of
pitching it in the idea of like, this is what we were like, this is what we've been told to do in like our faith in the Christian faith of like going out. And so that I feel like was kind of part of it as well, right? Of like
your next step.
Yeah, like this is what we preach to do, or this is what the school is kind of telling us to be a part of, and so we want to do this, but then we're going to get penalized for not doing it. Can we like find a way? And again, like I wasn't really a part of that process because I wasn't in like the house specifically with you guys, but I just remember because I knew all the things going on because we were all still hanging out.
Right.
But anyway, go on.
Oh, where was I? What are you talking about?
Yeah, you were just kind of telling us about the like that process, I guess, or those meetings of Bethel getting involved.
Oh, with the Calvert stuff. And then I don't know. They allowed us to kind of do what we wanted. We all had to have like advisors, like the professors,
like a mentor type.
Yeah, exactly.
Like advisor.
Help you through this process.
And then you guys had to meet with them once a month?
Yeah,
or?
We had pretty cool monthly meetings on Sundays, if I believe.
Yeah, and then you had big group meetings as well. Like.
Yeah, and then the once a month meetings with the advisors and stuff.
And was Rick yours? Rick Becker?
Yeah, Rick Becker.
Okay. Yeah, because everybody had a different person, right?
Yep, we had those. But yeah, the house that we lived in wasn't exactly in South Bend or downtown where we were doing, where that drop-in center was, or where the relationships that we were building, but it was in a place that was available to do good to our neighbors.
Right.
elderly folk or families with little kids.
Yeah.
We were able to help out around the neighborhood. There's a cool park in the area, and it was a really fun spot.
Yeah, it was a really cool that the park was like right in the backyard, and I know Tyler or Calvin maybe mentioned that like it was one of his favorite memories. One of those guys remembered that the day I wasn't there, but we had a snow day, and your neighbor, the older lady, I think she like locked herself out. You guys were like trying to help her find her keys or something.
What was her name? I don't remember.
Or, like you were trying to like break into her house like so that she could get back in, and like she hung out and had coffee or whatever at the house and breakfast. And I remember getting there. I think she was still there when I arrived. That morning, and we like still had breakfast, and she was sitting there like talking and telling stories or whatever.
Yeah,
I think that's the moment.
Yeah, the house kind of turned into an outlet for those people that were involved, or had those mental, those kind of on the same wavelength as all of us. A place where they could come hang out. So even younger students, coming up through Bethel would come over there hang out to see what we were up to and talk to us and pick our brains and whatnot. So it was fun. It was a fun time. 1 year that we lived, and then.
Yeah, and so we all just kind of went our different separate ways.
Yeah. Well,
what do you have any like?
Bethel took over.
Oh.
Yeah, that first year they're like, no, we'll need to have more control or whatever. So then they picked the places, they picked the houses in that Keller Park.
Oh, that's right.
That church neighborhood, and
because they had the relationship with Keller Park and.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's right. I totally forgot about that. This is why Calvin was talking about some of those things. He had graduated already, but.
Yeah, that year at the Calvert House was Calvin and Tyler's last year at college.
Right.
And then that was my junior year. So.
And we were trying to figure out getting... Yeah, okay. Man, it's so funny to remember some of these memories, I guess.
Yeah, dude.
What are some of your... Do you have, like, a favorite memory from the house? Or, like, a few?
Oh, yeah, I guess. On a not so serious note, we had that dog named Weezer.
Oh, yeah, Weezer. Because he was like wheezing, and also
he was an elderly pup, and he loved, eating our food. He was quite smelly at times, but he was just a fun dog to be around. Anyways, just playing with that pup those are just striking memories for some odd reason. But just mornings on Saturday mornings when we didn't have, and we all had our part in it. One person's taking out the trash. One person do this, that, making the eggs, making the coffee, and then we'd all sit and eat together. And those were some of the best moments. I think at the house, building those relationships with those people that were so close to you, close to your heart, I guess you could say. It was really great.
I remember sitting in the living room area a lot. Like, just everybody... No particular reason, really. We were we'd just sit there, and we'd, like, hang out. Yeah. And talk, and that's when the different debates would get going. Yeah, and, like, sure. Or the wrestling match between Calvin and I, or, like, whatever.
Those times are fun.
Or messing with Weezer, the blanket or something,
Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, Saturday Night Live. It's just interesting because it's not, like, it happened a lot. We were those moments were frequent. But it wasn't ever, like, there were times when you guys would be like, it's meeting time. But, like, generally it was just, like, it happened organically or naturally. Kind of like everybody was intentional about hanging out.
It's a good place to be.
So would you say, Sam, there's, like, I feel like my knowledge of you, like, you have a big heart. Like, you do really care about people. You care about doing good and making a difference. When did that start? Do you remember a moment, or has it just always been kind of a thing for you? Or, like, what can you tell us about, like, your life? You've got a very empathetic heart and, like,
sure,
all those things. How did that come about?
It's hard to kind of put a finger on it, to be
Yeah,
honest.
and I've thought about it myself, and I don't even know how I would do that as well. But do your best.
Yeah, I know, but my mother brings about memories of me, like, and I do remember them myself, but reminded me of them recently, of me, like, picking out the slavery book off the library shelf, or watching the movie Tuskegee Airmen when I was, 13, 10 or 13, and just kind of, and Martin Luther King, and learning about that at a young age.
Yeah.
Like, I was very attracted to that. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that had something to do with it. But, yeah, who knows?
Right. Yeah, it's just interesting because, I mean, I feel like all of us,
Sure.
obviously we share that, like, common thread. And
Sure.
even talking with Tyler and, those guys, just talking about how it's cool to see how the things that we cared about then have transferred, and we still care about them now,
For sure.
And I think it is cool to see, and I guess that's the part that's really intriguing to me in some ways, and why I like hearing this, like, life cycle or this, like, life story to where we are now, and most of us are in our early 30s, and I don't know, if you asked me what my life would be at right now, I would never told you it was going to look like does right now.
Yeah, sure.
And that's not a bad or good, like, it's just a neutral thing. I'm not saying it's a one way or the other. My life's great. I love my life. I wouldn't change it for the world. But I just don't think I would have ever have pictured my life the way it is right now. But nothing's changed with, like, my heart in some ways, and I feel the same way with you guys, like, after talking to everybody, especially over the weekend. And yeah, I'm just curious.
Yeah. A lot's gone on around us.
Yeah.
But we've stayed pretty true to
And
ourselves.
I mean, I know you and I have had a lot of discussions about how, like, that motivation sometimes has been gone, and like, just how I feel like maybe I've changed or we've changed in some ways, but like, there's always been a theme throughout our lives, I guess. Like, you're still a nurse. You've been a nurse since coming out of college, but at least for me, like, I've jumped around a little bit with jobs and whatnot, but the theme and, like, the piece has always been the same, like, that we are giving back and trying to, like, help others. And
Right.
So graduating college, or, well, shoot, we missed not even graduating college. We missed after junior year of living in the Calvert house. Your first semester, you went to Uganda.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, it was a semester abroad there, and I didn't pass my obstetrics rotation in the nursing program.
That's right.
Sadly, I had to redo that class,
Which was going to push you back basically a semester, right?
Yeah, due to Bethel not offering the school or the class at the time or whatever.
So then that was, like, the catalyst for you kind of looking at that as an option, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I had a free semester, and I decided I took a semester abroad, and I went to Uganda Christian University in Mukono, Uganda. Nice. Yeah.
And for you Invisible Children folk out there listening, or if you know what Invisible Children is, I've mentioned it several times on the podcast. Here's my episode plug, because I'm pretty sure I've said something about them every podcast. But Sam is the reason that I even found out about Invisible Children, as well as Matt, who we both worked for Invisible Children, which is interesting.
Started with Tony.
And Tony told you?
No, Tony. Yeah, Tony. He started it. He brought the rough cut of the documentary home from a class.
So crazy.
With Anaka Nakatsukasa.
Yes.
And she was sharing it because she got it from Alex
Collins, who recently passed away this year.
Yeah. So started with Alex to Annika to Tony. Tony brought it to me. I think it was me and Derek. Or she gave it to me. Whatever. Who cares?
But I think you guys watched it, and then it was like all of us together watched it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Derek and I watched it for the first time, or something, or somebody.
Okay.
We watched it in Tony and Derek's
in their room.
dorm, and that was the first introduction, I guess.
For sure. That was fun.
2006.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy. Fall 2006. And then Alex Collins, who we did the fundraiser for his wife and unborn child after he passed away, and we did raise some money, about $140. We were able to raise and to donate to that cause, which was great. Thank you all for the ones that participated in that matching campaign with the mug sales. Thank you very much. Really appreciate that. But yeah, so it's funny because Alex then went to work out in Invisible Children prior to Matt and I, and then Matt went in 2009.
Right.
And then I went in 2010. And then, and then you went to Uganda in 2000, I guess it would have been 2008, 2009? I had 2009.
10. Because you graduated in 11.
Yes. Yeah.
It was your junior
Fall.
year.
Yeah.
First semester.
Yeah. Interesting. Don't remember those dates.
Yeah.
But I know it was the first year, the first semester of my senior year. So how was that experience for you out in Uganda?
Oh, it was pretty unique. It was really fun. Spent a lot of time at the university, studied politics, literature, whatever, a few other things. And it was a nice break from the nursing program for sure. But it was nice to see the country. I lived briefly with a family in the city that that the university was was in, and then I lived out in the country with a family for a couple weeks, which is kind of cool. Seeing the different ways of life, how they depend.
Did you appreciate one more than the other?
Yes. I enjoyed the family out in the country a little more, I guess you could say. Okay. Because the father of the family was kind of connected to more things in the community, so we got to take part in some fun stuff at the fishery or the hatchery or the water tank and things like that in the town. But they were both very similar in the fact that they depended on the neighbors around them. The kids would literally run around naked throughout the day.
Yeah.
The mom's inside either cooking or stoking the fire. But just very community oriented.
Yeah.
So, everything was just wrapped around that for sure.
Nice.
But that was the living situations there in Uganda at the university. Got to meet kids my age from Uganda. The relationship, or what do you call them? Friendships or personality types.
Oh, yeah.
Between myself, maybe and a few other Americans.
As compared to.
Clash, sort of. So I didn't build too many relationships on campus with the upper class Ugandans. I didn't build too many relationships there. I don't know, just for the sheer fact of personality types, I believe. But yeah,
that's interesting.
It's part of my experience, just a small part. But yeah.
And that was also that first semester. Tyler and Calvin were living in Kampala, right?
Yeah.
So you got to see them a little bit, right?
Yeah, and we were at Matt's family, or they were at Matt's family's apartment.
Yeah, because Matt's family has a school there that they help run, and so they were they were working there and helping at the school and working at the school along with living in the apartment. And it's funny that you guys overlapped. That all kind of came together in really an odd time.
I know, it was very strange. It's cool.
Cool at the same time. Yeah, it's cool they had that opportunity. Do any stories or anything that sticks out to you from that trip or Uganda in general?
Let's see. Well, going to Uganda with the expectations of seeing the typical things, seeing the poor people that need help, the slums, going into it with that expectation of I'm going to help, I'm going to learn, and I'm going to go back to the United States, come back to those guys and help them. But going there and learning like I think they have it better than we do here.
Sure.
Like I mentioned before with the community stuff, and
Yeah.
it really was centered around that. But for some reason, well, we all know the reason, but the influence of the West, the kids there, they all wanted cell phones. The only show in the house that I lived in, the only show that they watched was Hogan's Knows Best.
Oh, that's funny.
Yes. And there was only one light bulb in the house. It's like maybe 2 channels. But they all wanted the cell phones. They wanted the luxuries of a car and stuff like that. But after seeing what their life really was and how it was very simple, I don't know, coming back, realizing they helped me more than them. But
well,
I guess realizing our part.
Yeah, it's a common feeling, I think. And I felt that when I was in Haiti as well, like coming back, where I went with the same intention. I'm going to go help. I'm going to go do something. And then got there and basically all that had fallen apart. But I felt like it was maybe more beneficial that it did fall apart. You know, like that was like happened, maybe not for a reason, but there was something I needed to learn from that experience for sure. And coming back and being like, I describe it now as like I got to experience Haitian culture. Exactly. And I think that like I got to learn, and not that I wouldn't have learned if I was trying to do something or whatever, but sometimes just understanding and comprehending and receiving is fine. It's okay. You know? And like not every time you go to a country that's underdeveloped or that we from the West think of as poor or have this stereotype in our head about, it's not that we need to necessarily go do something.
Right. Totally.
We can just go and appreciate and appreciating and taking lessons from culture and taking lessons from just different experiences. I think it makes us better human beings.
Totally.
And allows us to see things through different... We talked about this probably on our drive out. Sam and I drove to Indiana.
I've seen a lot of
trip.
Shane.
Yeah. So we spent 8 hours there driving through the night and then 8 hours back driving through the night. So we had a lot of Shane and Sam time. But I remember talking about this because on my trip back from Florida, when I was trying to find Dana and us a place to live, there was this, she was an African lady that was sitting next to me on the plane. And it's just funny how I recognized, yes, with working with invisible children, I was around, Ugandans and Africans. And so like, there's just a cultural piece to that, you know?
Sure.
And even, Haiti and like, there's a lot of like overlapping kind of cultural pieces to those two groups. And it's just interesting because I understood things differently than maybe people around this lady. For simple things like the way she asked for chips or whatever, or like the things, give me, and it comes across in American culture as something that's like rude, but it's not how she meant it at all. Sure. And like me seeing that, but like obviously seeing the lady walking, what's her name, the flight attendant being like kind of being offended in some ways and like like she doesn't mean like but and we just had a conversation about how like it's interesting to see those different cultural differences and but it's fun to know, and like how are you to know? You learn, you grow, and you kind of see those, and even the slight, every culture, I know I've talked to other people and there's a lot of different little nuancy things where like I do it now still, but the Haitians will go, they'll raise their eyebrows. And they're like when they say yes, like yes, which is a fun thing. We're gonna take a real quick break. Sam, go for it.
I got a pee.
He's got a pee. I'm gonna hang with you guys, and I'm gonna just kind of plug a few things while he goes to the restroom. I'm really thankful for you guys tuning in. You know, we're about 40 minutes in here, and I just want to say thank you for listening. If you haven't been to the website, please go check it out. It's crazyfaceuno.com. On the website, there are mugs. There's a couple. There's a digital download. It's a little fun podcast games. The whole concept is if you guys are interested in me saying a phrase or a word or something on the podcast, obviously keep it respectful and keep it as clean as possible. We'll work together on that. You can buy this digital download, $10. For $10, you get to work with me in creating a phrase or a word that you want me to say. And the whole concept is with this word or phrase, I have to weave it in without into a story or into my vocabulary. We can kind of set those parameters and we can work together on those types of things. Just a little fun little game we can play. I know my dad has got some ideas, so I'll let you know at the end of the podcast what's going on, and I'll also kind of plug those after the podcast as well of, hey, take a peek and see if you can catch and find the phrase, and maybe we'll have a few prizes and for people that can figure those things out. But yeah, I'm genuinely interested. If you guys have topics or things you want to talk about, if you want specific conversations to happen, if there's certain people maybe that you want, I know, or you have connections to that would be interested in talking, reach out to me. Let me know. I would love to sit down or have a phone call conversation. I'm moving to Florida on the 29th of this month of July, and I will be there. So there's going to be a lot of phone podcasts coming just because that's what I'm going to be able to do, and kind of the ability that I'm going to have to continue doing podcasts while I first moved to Florida and begin to meet new people and create new things. Samuel Lewis Palombo.
Yeah.
He's back.
That's me.
Good old Sambo.
Hello.
So when you left, we had just kind of finished up talking about Uganda.
Mm-hmm.
You spent a semester there, came back, and you ended up living with Tony and I. Mm-hmm. So Tony and I lived in his mom's house our senior year. Mm-hmm. So the first semester it was just him and I think Crouch lived there Matt Crouch. And
yeah.
Tony mentioned that for like a month or so, or a couple weeks. It wasn't very long.
Mm-hmm.
And then you joined us that fall,
second semester.
spring, or the spring.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in the spring. And, coming back from Uganda, do you remember, did you have what was that transition like, I guess, for you of like leaving Uganda for the semester abroad and then coming back into the Western world, kind of back to school, more traditional setting in Bethel in and of itself?
Oh, well, I got mostly sucked into my college classes, schoolwork and stuff. But it was kind of difficult because, like, beyond the schoolwork stuff was that ignorant and invisible children and stuff. And
that's right.
And my perspective, I guess, kind of changed when I came back from Uganda. It was like again, I say, they had it better than us almost. Yeah. At times, of course, there's emergency situations or tragedies throughout our world that need attention. Mm-hmm. But anyways, coming back and just kind of like more observant and just kind of going about my day and just, continuing that learning process, I guess you could say, about what's going on around me. But,
yeah. It's such an interesting...
Mm-hmm.
It's weird to leave another, because I came right back when I graduated college from Haiti. I came right back and started working for Invisible Children right away.
Yeah.
Literally 4 days after I got back from Haiti, I went out to San Diego and got thrown into this whole nother world.
Right.
And so I think that's honestly been a huge... I never dealt with any of those things, right? Mm-hmm. I didn't really ever... I did a little bit with my teammates at Invisible Children, kind of a little bit of a breakdown of my time in Haiti, but we're so busy working at Invisible Children and always on the go that I never really dealt with any of my my headspace or that transition. I just didn't have time. It was like saturate myself with family, and they obviously have a million questions, rightfully so, and wanted to be able to talk to them and give them that, my experiences and kind of relate that info.
Yeah.
But it's hard. I mean, it's really hard to come back from another country and just take it all in. And again, some of it, it's not that it's not culture shock in the way that you might think of culture shock.
Right, it's that reverse culture shock.
Yeah.
Coming back to your own culture, you're like, wait a minute.
Yeah, and appreciating some of the simplicities of things, I feel like, a little bit better.
Yeah, totally.
And then you just come back and you've changed. Your world has, morphed and developed and grown. And then, but nobody else knows what you're going through.
Yeah. Right. Totally.
And even though, it's tough. We did skip over one summer that was pretty, pivotal. And I would like to talk to you about this now because I know that Tony and I want to talk about it at some point in time.
But you didn't talk about it?
No, he hasn't talked about it yet.
On the podcast?
He mentioned it. You guys did it, but we didn't talk about it.
Oh.
So, Tony Wiltsey, who was on our episode series 2 of the Bethel Boys.
Dose.
Yes, dose. Him, Tony, and Sam went on a bike trip their sophomore year. Tony and Sam. Sam and Tony.
There's only 2 of us, just me and Tony on that bike trip. Yeah, it was, 2010?
No. It would have been 2008.
Yeah, way earlier. 2008. That sounds about
because you guys were...
I can't remember.
Yeah, I went to YouthWorks.
Oh, that summer?
That summer.
Okay.
And then you guys went on the bike trip, and Tony went on to YouthWorks the year before.
Gotcha.
So I followed him to YouthWorks.
Yeah, it was the summer of my sophomore.
Yep, sophomore year.
Yeah, it was the greatest time of my life.
Yeah, I believe it.
Your life is so simple. You bike, you bike, eat, sleep.
Yeah, so you guys went from Granger,
Yeah,
Indiana.
Granger, Indiana.
So South Bend, basically, where
Northern.
Notre Dame and Bethel is and all that, Mishawaka, that whole... And you guys went to...
Seattle, Washington.
Seattle, Washington.
Yeah, on a bike.
On a bicycle.
With a bicycle. No van.
Nope.
Following us.
All by yourselves.
All on our back. Or on our bikes.
How many miles a day did you average?
Around 75.
Okay, 75. I mean, there were different days were different, right? Depending on whether you're going through the mountains or not in a lot of ways. Or
whether we get a ride from a guy.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit more about your trip.
Well, we would average 70 to 100 miles a day.
Yeah.
Couple of those 100-mile days. We had 2 that we actually biked an entire century, which was we felt good about ourselves. Yeah. But
through Nebraska, probably. That was one of them.
South Dakota. Definitely.
Yeah, those flat states that there's nothing to do but just keep driving.
Right. Yeah, we're well, we can't and we won't stop there.
Mm-hmm.
We gotta keep going. Before we get to the cool 100-mile days, the days that were the shortest were the days where it was
Grand Tetons. Or...
Well, no, 45, 50 mile per hour winds blowing you in the face. You can't literally go anywhere.
Right, I forgot about that.
And that ended us in a weird ghost town, literally advertised as a ghost town.
That's so funny.
And we knocked on one of the doors of the houses that was in the town. For some reason, they lived there. And can we, sleep in your backyard? Or
yeah, because you guys took tents,
right?
And your own food, your own camping stoves to cook your rice and beans or whatever you're eating.
Yeah, we didn't pay for a place to stay the entire time.
Right. And you kind of set some parameters, right? Wasn't that kind of you guys, one, you went on it for fun.
Yeah.
But you also had some other, like...
It was intentional in the fact that we were just living the simplest life possible, relying on the generosity of other people almost. Yeah. It was like an experiment to see if our world or our country still had it in them.
Yeah.
You know?
And in some ways it did.
It sure did.
And in some ways it didn't disappoint the other direction as well.
Yeah.
Is there any, like... I can think of a couple stories that I know that you guys have told, but what would you say one of the most, like, surprising moments that, like, showed up, you know? Like, people showed up in a time of need type of moments. I know there were several. What was one that's most memorable for you, or...
let's see here.
You feel like is the most shocking, the all factor?
Well, let's see here. Just the shocking surprises of money in our bags before we left in the morning. Like, we'd meet somebody that's, like, either... So we'd stop at churches or, town parks or city parks where we try to camp. And, you know, a couple times we'd meet some people from the church or whatever that has the plot of land that we'd sleeping in. And then the next morning they'd bring us, you know, they'd drop like a 20 or 50 in our bag, and with a little note that says, you know, here's some groceries or breakfast on me. So it was fun to see that. That was kind of shocking. Literally didn't expect any of that kind of stuff. Let's see.
I remember there's a story about like a storm that was coming through one of the hotel moments, right?
Yeah. There was the only hotel moment. Yeah. That was the only
the only one?
The only time we slept in a hotel was when a couple that I think was a pastor and his wife from the church in town. It was, where the hell was it? Wyoming, probably. Just like Idaho, bumfuck nowhere. And they're like, well, you could sleep in our yard, yes, or you could sleep in the gymnasium. Or we could buy, you know, get you a hotel room. And we're like, yeah, we'll take the hotel room.
Yeah.
With a big, you know, half smile on our face.
Please,
give me the hotel room.
I just want a good hot shower. How? I mean, obviously, it was dependent on whether people, and I know people did let you come in and shower, but
we planned a place to stay every. What was it? Once a week? No. Yeah. No. Like once a week, we had a overnight stay. Almost once a week. Yeah.
Yeah, to shower and clean.
Yeah, a friend of a friend, or a friend of a family, whatever. That we had a place, like each state.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is one of the moments, maybe the opposite, the negatives that like you?
Well, we got, kicked out of a park by the police.
Right.
It was one of the biggest towns that we stopped at on our entire trip, but it was in Oregon, and it was a town of, I don't know, 50,000 people or almost 100,000, but whatever. Anyways, we were in one of their parks, and we posted up, put our tent up, sleeping away. It was like 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, and the big flashlight comes in our eyes. So we mosey on down the road, and we hopped in a baseball dugout, and then of course the sprinkler system started, and spraying the metal dugout was not sleep conducive. So we stopped that. So we didn't sleep very much that night. That was an adventure, and I love that trip, and I will remember it for the rest of my life. It was really fun. There's just so many trips. There's so many moments, so many memories.
I love hearing about that trip. I love when you guys talk, like when you guys get together and you talk about. We didn't talk about it really at all the weekend together.
Oh no, I didn't. Do you remember when we first started talking about it though?
Yeah.
You were probably involved. Derek was involved. Yeah.
Derek was in at one point in time.
For sure. Mm-hmm.
I wanted to, but it just wasn't like a. I think it was a financial thing for me. It was like. Because you guys bought brand new bikes, you guys did all this. I just didn't. You guys hadn't trained at all, and I think that was part of it for me. Like I thought it was going to be this thing, and I didn't realize it was going to be because it was like our freshman year too, which this is like the story, right? I mean, like legitimately in some ways, right?
When it all started.
Yeah, how it all started. Mm-hmm. In a sense, even like how our relationship was in the beginning, because I don't think it was that you wouldn't have cared that I went.
Oh,
but
yeah,
you
maybe.
weren't necessarily like, "Hey, Shane, come along on this trip." You know what I mean?
Maybe.
Yeah,
Could have been.
and not in like this isn't. I'm not being like shame on you, Sam. But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that. I think there was a little bit of that too. Like I think you were
Maybe.
pretty okay with me not like. I mean, we still all hung out. Like I helped you guys get going. I think I was there when you guys left.
Maybe, yeah.
Like when you guys took off, I was at your
Tony's house.
Tony's house or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then I took off for my time. But
Oh, right.
what was one of the most challenging moments on your bike trip?
Being with Tony
You hear that, T-Bone?
for 50 days. No, we had like 1 or 2 days though. Like that's pretty much it. That we had like a fight,
Yeah.
a little feud going on. I don't know.
Yeah.
Tony may, he might have his own stories.
Yeah.
But this is all I got. A couple days of just being pissed off. Oh, Tony. We're like, yeah, this is the worst place to be. There's rattlesnakes for sure, Tony. Tony, there's rattlesnakes.
Did you see rattlesnakes?
No, but
You knew that there were. Yeah.
supposedly somebody told Tony. Tony told us that there's rattlesnakes. So of course I'm like, I don't want to sleep there. Fucking rattlesnakes. That's when we stayed in that ghost town on a bike trip.
Okay.
And I went to the bathroom in the house that we were staying at, and 2 massive dogs come rushing at me in the bathroom. Just while I'm taking a shit, just minding my own business. 2 massive dogs come sniffing me up while I'm taking a shit. Like, I'm just pooping here. Of course, there's like an ashtray behind me with like 400 or 500 cigarettes from the owners of the home. It was just it was an incredible experience.
That's hilarious.
I can't believe this is a podcast.
I know, right? That's funny. So whatever happened with that? What did the dogs like? Did you finish your?
Oh, they eventually left.
They left. Were they big dogs? You said
Quite large. I don't remember the types, but loud, barking.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't lock the door. Why would I be able to lock the door? No, there's no lock in the bathroom. No. Mm-mm.
And you're just with some like random strangers.
The randomest. I was like afraid to knock on the door to ask to use the bathroom. I'm like, can I go pee or poop? But I'm not gonna tell you I'm gonna go poop.
Oh man.
That was one time on the bike trip.
Did you guys? I mean, you didn't have any trouble with food, did you? No.
Tony
you guys got
carried
tired of all the food.
Yeah, Tony carried all the food. He'd probably bitch or complain about that.
Yeah, lots of rice and beans, right?
Well, yeah, we had Zatarans every night, of course, with all sausage and cheese.
Saturdays.
No, we get cereal for breakfast. Even we get pancakes.
Yeah, just depending on where you stayed.
Yeah, or we just hit up the grocery store.
Mm.
So Tony would carry the food, but I'd carry the
tent
lighter fluid, the tent, this and that. We kind of split up that way. So his load would be super heavy at times, like super heavy, and then it dwindled down eventually.
Was that your argument, or was that you guys' like?
Well, that was just our plan, and he was okay with it.
Yeah,
because Tony's a giver. He's a great guy.
Yeah. What was do you remember what your feud was about, or like the 2 days?
Tony,
just each other.
It was again Ghost Town. Like that was like a crux of that fucking trip. I swear, for me at least.
Yeah.
It was like total exhaustion. We have to sleep in a crazy place. We don't want to.
Yeah, but you didn't have another option.
Yeah, and tensions are high. So yeah, it was. I was trying to set up the tent in this one area.
Was it halfway? Where were you? Where was this ghost town? Where'd you say?
This was Wyoming or South Dakota. Okay. One of the two.
Yeah.
They're very similar. My mind, but
so it was a good ways down the road then.
Yeah.
You're like 2/3 of your way, probably.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was definitely deserty. It's kind of, very abandoned part of the country, just off the highway with like those what do you call them? Those billboards for that place.
Mm-hmm.
Gas station.
Yeah. No, I don't know what you're talking about.
No. Oh, shit.
Travel, like.
No, that. That's pretty embarrassing. Oh well, moving on. No, it's the gas station or like that rest stop you see on the way on your highway. Everyone listening to this podcast knows exactly what I'm talking about.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Anyways.
It'll come to you.
Yeah.
Rest area? Rest stops?
Yeah, it was one of those rest areas. It has a very distinct name.
In where?
It's the area we were, South Dakota with Wyoming.
Oh, okay.
Just that.
The Badlands?
No, it's a rest area. Okay, never mind.
All right.
Moving on. So our feud started in the middle of fucking nowhere. And it was windy as hell, and we were hungry, and I was trying to set up the tent over by the garage, but the wind was kept knocking it over, and he's like, just put it over here behind the bushes and behind the garage. And I'm like, there's fucking snakes over there. We're dead. We're not sleeping in there. We ain't going over there. So I was just pissed about setting the tent up over there. Of course it's not going to fall over because of the wind, but we'll get eaten alive by reptiles of many kinds. So, we ended up sleeping in that reptile, I thought, infested area, but it wasn't. We were fine. Of course we were fine.
You made it.
Yes, we made it. No rattlesnake bites. No death. Yeah. So that's when it kind of started. It ended very quickly, of course.
Yeah.
Tony and I's personality were like, let's
We're done.
end this fight quick.
Yeah.
So we moved on, but it was so fun. It was...
What did you get?
We'd meet people along the way, which made it even more interesting.
Yeah. Any interesting people? Do you remember?
Yeah.
I mean, no.
Mm-hmm. Well, how many hours are we gonna...
There's a maximum of 29 minutes left. 28 minutes and 30 seconds, if you want to be exact.
Well, we got the guy walking across the country, started in Wisconsin, was trying to walk to California.
Okay.
And he had a dog that he sent home because the paws got all bare. He had, carried, dog food on his back, and he's like, no, this is too heavy. I'm like, yes, it's too heavy.
Yeah.
But we actually got his Facebook thing, and we followed him for a little bit. And he ended up making it, but he also hitchhiked. Oh. So there's one guy. We met the 300-pound Mongolian fella that was very proud of his Mongolian roots.
Yeah.
Was on his big bike with, everything you can imagine, coolers, solar panels, hamburger meat, eggs, on his bike.
And he just fill his cooler full of ice every day? Or
yeah, and his bike was hundreds of pounds. Okay, not that heavy, but still. It was,
compared to your guys, it was hundreds of...
It was funny to meet him and see that anybody could do that kind of trip.
Sure.
Which is...
Just a time frame of...
Yeah. Oh, yeah, if you got 45 days, 50 days to spend on the road, sure. But, yeah, we met a lot of interesting people.
So you get to Seattle. What was your plan from there?
I think we spent 3 or 4 days there.
Yeah.
In Seattle, and then we...
Kind of hit all the high points. And
yeah, we just actually took it easy and ate some good meals, and yeah, and then we got on the Amtrak and headed back to Chicago, and then we had family pick us up there, or in South Bend.
Yeah.
And then drove us home.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So jealous of that trip.
Yeah, it was a good time. I mean, it would have been fun to have more people, that's for sure.
Yeah.
It was good.
And I know I mentioned it to Tyler, so the rest of you boys out there, if you're listening, we should do it. I know Tony and you and me have seriously talked about doing the East Coast, so that you guys can finish off the entire, basically the continental United States, coast to coast.
Right.
And I think that would be awesome. I think that'd be really fun to do.
Indiana to Boston
would be sweet.
Florida
could be fun. Florida could be real fun to get into my place. I don't know. I think that would be a really fun trip. So, boys, Tyler, Tony, Derek, Calvin, let's go. Let's do it. Let's make this happen. That could be the Bethel Boys Series Part 2. I don't know. So, we kind of went back, but I forgot about that, and that was definitely a catalyst for some of the trip. I mean, some of the Calvert House
Yeah.
For sure, and like some of the conversations that happened and being intentional and your guys' experiences. Then the Calvert House happened. Then senior year, you went to Uganda, came back. We all lived together. Our final semester of us all together. So Tony and I graduated. You still had 2 semesters left.
Mm-hmm.
So you had another year.
Yeah.
Kind of left after we were done, but Matt he went to Uganda like when you got back, basically.
Right. Pretty much.
To do his little trip. I don't know what to call it.
Endeavor.
His endeavor.
Well, he worked at his parents' school for a
Yeah.
while, but he took a Brennan.
Yeah, Brennan. And they went up to try to find, in an attempt to find the LRA, I guess. They made it to
the border of Uganda and DRC, and he
not Dungu. Dungu? Goma.
And supposedly, and
They helped with the mudslides.
oh right, they helped with the mudslides.
That seemed to take a toll on him.
Was Brennan there?
He was there, but I don't know if Brennan was. Brennan may have stopped before then.
That's true.
But
Back. Yeah,
I'm not
I
sure.
think
that may have taken a toll on Matt. The mudslides, I know, was.
he was one of the first to be there.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy to think back on some of the stuff for sure. And then senior year, and I want to talk about this with Tony at some point in time, and we don't have to talk about it amongst us necessarily. I think maybe it's better with maybe all 3 of us could do a little joint phone call. But I think it's really interesting, like our falling out, our senior year, and those.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we can do something in the future. But
yeah,
Sam, Tony, and I all kind of. Sam and I stayed friends, but it was like you and me and Tony, and we kind of went our separate ways. We had kind of a falling out there for a good while, and it's been in the last, really Matt passing away has been one of the big catalysts for us getting back together. One of the several reasons.
for sure.
But it's been really good to have, Tony back in our lives, and obviously throughout our stories you can kind of tell like this group of people has been foundational to our college experiences for sure. You, me, Tony, and Derek especially, like us, and then Calvin and Tyler joined in basically our junior and senior year was like, kind of added to our friend group, and Matt, obviously, when he was here. I didn't intentionally leave him out. But yeah, so those guys we've all just been a really close-knit group of people, especially since the Calvert House and all of that. Leaving, we graduated. You stayed with Matt for another year. You and Matt, because Matt was a junior when I was a senior, and you stayed with him and finished out, both your college experiences there in Bethel. How was that? Just you two living together? You guys had fun, for sure.
That's when it all kind of exploded, to be honest.
Tell us as much as you want, and you can,
sure.
If there's stuff you want to leave out, that's totally fine.
Maybe a darker point in my life,
but
not very. I mean, still very normal. But so me and Matt were living together. We moved in with a guy in his basement. We were just living in his basement. We were finishing up our classes, and actually that's kind of when Matt started experiencing some of the symptoms he was having or whatever, his depression, anxiety kind of stuff, and he was dealing with it for the first time, and working with like self-medicating to going to a psychiatrist and dealing with it that way, and it was an interesting time of navigating this young life we've just begun, because we're almost on the verge of ending college, but we're like talking about and thinking about all of these big things.
Right.
Like Matt thinking about getting married. Like that pushed us to go hitchhike to the middle of nowhere, Montana, and do some rather stupid stuff. And
let's go ahead and talk about that.
Do we really want to keep talking about
You don't want to talk about that trip?
Sure, no, we could talk a little bit. But
to hit the high points. I mean, you even talked about on our trip, like you remembered specific memories of like the rest stops or the truck stops of like hitchhiking from there.
From Chicago, right. So we got dropped off by Sasha, Matt's girlfriend at the time, on the interstate. And then we just got a ride from there and Chicago.
And you just hitchhiked from there.
Yeah, from Chicago. We got a ride in Chicago by a...
Goal was to get to Seattle, Portland.
Very vague destination.
But
yes,
that was
Seattle,
kind of
for a friend's wedding. And we were getting close. I had a couple rough nights, just kind of like not finding anybody, or a few days that were just impossible to find a ride.
Yeah.
So you'd have to find a place.
Just walk?
Well, we'd walk and then we'd just sleep, and then try again the next day. But it got pretty discouraging. And Matt was trying to get like don't want to speak for you there, brother, but like get out some of his last youthful moments before he gets proposed and got married and things like that. So we were doing that hitchhiking trip, and he decided after a couple of those rough nights that it was time to go back and propose and go back home. So one of the craziest moments was we actually turned around the same day we turned around. We made it all the way back to Chicago from Montana, and we were in Montana and we were on the side of the road. Or we got a ride from a guy, took us to a better rest stop. He thought was a better rest stop where he could have a better opportunity of getting a ride.
Yeah.
He's also on the way to this better rest stop asking, "Oh, you want to catch a high?" We're like, what are you talking about?
Buddy.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. And he pulls out the weed, and of course it may be something else besides weed in there. We don't know. Who knows?
We're very feel like it was a very good experience, is what you're saying. It sounds like.
Yes, after that, yes. But we were on the side of the road there for quite some time, just chatting, and had some crazy videos of each other talking about things. It was one of the best moments of our friendship. And then as soon as that moment ended, we got a ride from a lady that drove us all the way to Fargo, North Dakota.
Okay.
Who bought us a one-way bus ticket all the way back to South Bend. So that was a pretty incredible, gracious moment from a lady that we just met on the side of the road. Offered to buy us 2 bus tickets back to South Bend from North Dakota. And anyways, so that year with Matt was interesting and fun and difficult all at the same time. I was bouncing around because I didn't know what I was doing with my life at the time because I didn't want to move back home. Yeah. But I ended up moving back home. Once I was living at home after a year and passed the nursing boards, I then found the job in Minneapolis, and that moved me here.
And that brought you here.
And that's why I asked you, Shane, and Matt to move to Minneapolis.
Yeah.
Once I got here.
And Matt was still in Indiana with Sasha.
Right.
Who they just found out they were pregnant. Right. And then I was transitioning out of my position at Invisible Children. 2012, I decided it was time to move along, little doggy. And I didn't want to go back to Indiana. I didn't want to live there necessarily. And so I went back in December and stayed 2 months. Finished the rest of December, January, and then February 9th was my day that I left Indiana, and the rest is history. I've lived here ever since.
Now you're moving to Florida, you little guy there.
Yes.
Gotta leave me.
I know.
You're leaving me.
We've had a good run, Sambo. We've had a good run. We have had a real good run. Cheers, brother.
Well, now that I have 2 children, and I need the most support I need in my entire life.
Yeah.
You're leaving me!
Good luck.
Thanks a lot, motherfucker.
You got my phone number, though, right?
Oh, that's
and right. Disney World's only a few hours away. The kiddos are going to need to go there eventually, and I think Uncle Shaney needs to be a part of that.
And Uncle Shane's will have to buy the tickets for the children.
Well, you buy the tickets to my house, and I'll buy the tickets to Disney World. It's on the podcast. Shake on it.
Whoa, that's too much.
Shake on it.
Yeah, son of a bitch.
You come there and want to go to Disney World, I'll buy the tickets. You got to show up.
Well, you got to live there more than a year.
Well, deal.
Okay.
You got it. It's you heard the handshake.
You heard it here.
You heard it. So it's official.
Mm-hmm.
Sambo, our time here, I mean, we might as well just skim through it. I lived with you and Matt and Sasha.
Mm-hmm.
for about 6 months. February, March, April, May, June, July, August.
Yeah.
I think it was August that I moved out, or early September. I think it was early August because if I remember correctly. So it was about 6 months, and then I moved into the house that we're doing this podcast in right now, that we're moving from, and rented this house for a while, and then Dana and I started dating, and she moved in, and we ended up, Dana technically bought the house, and we've been homeowners for the last couple of years. You bought a house as well. When I moved out of the house with you guys, we kind of all started splitting off. Yeah. From there, I moved out. You moved out and you moved in with Jess, right? Yeah. And found out you were having Henry.
Yeah, baby.
A little Henry boy. And then, I remember that phone call. I just happened to call you that day. Really? I believe I had just happened to call you. It was like that day is when you found out. And I remember you were a little bit freaked out.
Oh, just a little bit.
Yeah, you didn't know how to take that news, I don't think. Interesting. And then, what, you and Jess got married the year after that? Or after Henry was born, right? The year after Henry was born. And then about short time after you guys got married was, when Rosie came along, right?
Yeah, when we were pregnant with her, then we did the house, bought the house around the same time she was born.
So, and you guys lived in St. Paul, so we all lived like about 10 minutes from each other there for a while. Yeah. It's been really fun for me, at least. I mean, obviously, I think it's a common thing amongst just that transition period, you know? I think people struggle in general with like relationships. Friendships, especially in college, you have these like really strong bonds. You're almost like in a relationship with some of those like those roommates and those people that you're really close with in college. And then as those people start to meet other new people and spend more time with this like significant other, and there's always this divide, I think. And then it's always this finding, I think it's a little bit of hurt on the side of the friend where it's like, you're not spending any more time with me. Yeah. You're like, you've changed, man. You know? And honestly, like some of that is what I did the same thing. Some of that is what, we had mentioned things to Tony that was kind of like our falling out with our friendship, is like their relationship, and been like, hey man, like, I'm not saying don't be together, but watch out, there's some things, like, and it's just interesting because I think that when you start to get older, you start to meet these new people and these new relationships, I think that you just naturally are supposed to have these moments where you try to figure things out amongst your friends. I think it's hard. I don't think you hear these stories all the time, you know? Sure. It's the same things of like, well, all they do is spend time with their significant other now. They never even but there has to be a change in that. Like now we don't even think anything about it, right? Yeah, exactly. It's like 2 weeks go by. That's about our limit. I would say you and I, like we go about 2 weeks. It's been a little bit more frequent lately. You're welcome.
But it's been every week. If it goes a week, within that second week,
within that.
It's like, where's that guy?
Hey, dude. Yeah. How you doing? Thinking about you. Let's get together.
But it's good. It's nice balance.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's just interesting. Like, we don't, honestly, like, it's expected now. It's like, yeah, you're married. You
should be.
Spend time with your wife. Spend time with your kids. I don't expect to have every waking moment with you, you know?
I hope I don't.
Yeah. Exactly. Right. But I don't know. It's just interesting, like, to think about those different times. I have really enjoyed just being in the same city. It's just, there's comfort. The thing that I'm going to miss is, like, Dana, this is her first time leaving her family and, like, moving away from Minnesota. Wow. I've lived away from my family for a long time, you know?
Maybe you have a cramp going on.
Oh, man.
It's my thigh, yeah. We're good, though. Moving on.
but like, so she's gonna miss that, and that's kind of the conversation we've had, her and I, is that, man, it's not that her relationship with her family is very similar, right? It's like every couple weeks we have family dinner, we do things together, we, you know, they talk or whatever, but it's the comfort in knowing someone's there. And
Sure.
it's the same with you and I feel like, and that's the correlation. Your family to me, whether you, like we are or not, like I don't think there's much difference for me. Like if you look at my family, and like I don't think of you any differently than I think of them.
Oh,
you know?
yeah, for sure.
If that makes sense. Like it's
Well, yeah, same.
and I don't know how else to describe that. It's just like I just don't think of you any differently. You don't think of your family as like family necessarily. You're like, you just deal with their thing. Yeah, they're like in their own thing, and it's like,
Yeah.
if you needed something, I would drop everything to come help you, and I would do the same for my family, right?
Yeah.
If they needed something,
Yeah.
and I think for me that's the correlation I have. Like I've left my family a long time ago. We still stay in touch. We still talk and all that, but we've lived 9 hours away for the last 6 years, and I've since going to college, like it's been 12, 14 years that I've been away, like out of my parents' home essentially.
Yeah, for sure.
And
Wow.
when you think of it like that, it's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And this is in some ways the first time that Dana's going to be further away than like 30 minutes from her family.
Yeah, that's a big
And
step.
in the last 10 years or more,
Me?
like you and I
I know.
have been in each other's lives. So it's weird to
yeah.
think of like I'm leaving you, and like you're the one thing that I'm like,
True,
man, this sucks. Like I don't want to leave, and I don't want to think about that. Like
Yeah, no, that's
peace,
pretty
but
crazy.
I really value our friendship and the fact that we can go whatever amount of time and talk to each other, and I don't think there's anything that we couldn't talk to each other about.
I know, if you came and told me that you killed somebody, I would be like, I got your back, man. What happened? What happened?
I would probably encourage you to call the police, but I'd want to hear the story first.
But I got your back.
Yeah. But I'll support you through that whole process of going to court and going to jail for the rest of your life. But,
Okay.
Hey-oh.
I got your
No,
bail. How about that?
There you go. Do you? Because I don't know if I got yours.
I could ask.
Dana might, but...
I'm just saying, though. That's how it is.
No,
It's like,
yeah.
no matter what you do, it's
Yeah,
still
we've
gonna
got
be
each other's back.
And
Yeah. It's weird because even thinking about... I've moved a lot of times, and I think there's always been fear. I never thought that we'd be back together after college, Like, I did and I didn't. I always wanted to, right?
Yeah,
like, I always wanted that. I just never really knew if it was going to be a thing. And then it happened, and now it doesn't feel like it's the end, like, for me.
no.
And I don't... This move has been one of the weirdest moves I've ever had. Like, I've said, like, I've done this a lot, but it's still very surreal to me, and it's not something that, like, feels... I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a closed chapter, I don't think. I know Dana and I have said we're going to come back to the Twin Cities someday, and maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's like the piece that maybe that's really going to happen, but I don't know. You just never know.
Well, you're moving out of love for your wife. Out of
Absolutely.
Dana. I mean, out of Dana, because this is where you're going.
Yeah.
This is where you're going now.
This is it. This is the next stage, next step.
I get you, and we'll be texting, we'll be talking, we'll be doing everything.
Oh my God.
Yeah, just be like
No
best friends
sexting,
still.
Sam.
No,
No
I am not
sexting.
good at that anyways, so don't ask me. My wife talks about that shit. She's like, you just don't like sexting. I'm like, that's good, right?
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know, man. I don't text.
I mean...
Well, that's a great way to end this bad boy. Hey, cheers again. I think this is like your third
Is
or
this
fourth
really
cheers.
the way we're gonna end it?
We're going to end it like this, dude. You got anything else to
16.
say?
Well, it's Minneapolis and Minnesota won't be the same without you.
Thanks, brother.
I'll be even more alone now that you're gone. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
If I go in this deep, dark depression hole, it's your fault.
You're welcome. Once again.
Yeah, I'm gonna miss you.
I miss you too, man. Yeah, absolutely.
It's a pretty crazy relationship we've had, friendship, and
yeah,
and
cheers
all
to
those
that.
Bethel Boys.
Fucking Bethel
It's
Boys.
just so weird.
It
We
is
should
weird.
be on some talk show. Okay, never
Ooh.
mind. That's still getting out of. I don't want that kind of attention. Okay.
Sambo, appreciate it, buddy. I love
ya.
ya. And remember, everyone, don't forget, do good, make a difference.
Cheers.
Take care of each other out there. I love you guys. Love you, Sambo. Peace.